I can't sleep when I lay in bed. Too much thinking in my head. I don't know what to do anymore. But come on now, tell me the score. Is there anything I can do to get out of these tragic blues? I'm a victim of circumstance. I never really had a chance. I lay down, stare at my feet.
Good evening, and welcome to this month's edition of Mental Health Matters. My name is Matt Gallagher, filling in for Susan Gallagher, who is currently ill this month. And today we are fortunate enough to have our guests from the Youth Advocacy Committee, and their names are
Amanda Leone, Youth Advocate at NorCal MHA.
And I'm Dante Williams. I'm the lead youth peer mentor at Stanford Youth Solutions.
I'm Camila Baker. I'm a youth advocate at Turning Point Community Programs.
These youth advocates here are going to be discussing a little bit about what a youth advocate is, what is the role of a youth advocate, and more importantly, what is their role as they participate on the Youth Advocacy Committee. So guys, what is a youth advocate?
Well, I think of the role as a youth advocate in two ways. So we do advocacy, making sure that the youth voice is being heard in mental health, and we also do mentorship, so being there with youth to help them through whatever they're going through. One kind of unique thing about youth advocates is that a lot of us have lived experience in the mental health system and other systems. So we can go and connect with youth and say, hey, we've been there, and this is kind of what worked for us. And here is how we could kind of help you through your journey and finding recovery. So
would you guys say that lived personal experience is a key factor for youth advocates?
It is. I think there are a few people who don't have that experience, but they have some type of relatable experience to the youth. But I think it's crucial to the role in the sense that like she said, it helps the youth realize that there are people out there who've gone through similar circumstances and they have reached a level of success. And we come alongside that person using our own life experience, using our own life stories that relate to the different issues that they face on a daily basis. And I think it's really helpful in them seeing that there is a path to success.
And that really allows like the connection between you and the youth after you've kind of shared that about yourself.
Right, absolutely.
So Camila, you explained a little bit about what the role of a youth advocate is, but can you maybe give us a little bit more about what maybe a day in the life of the youth advocate would be?
Oh man, a day in the life. Well, one, I would say each day is a little different. I mean, my favorite part of my day, so when I work with youth, part of it is direct service, but part of it is advocacy where I'm not really hanging out one-on-one with youth. But my favorite part is hanging out one-on-one with youth. And luckily I have a lot of flexibility in my job, so I can do anything kind of with the youth as long as I believe it's helping them meet their goals. So they're like recovery goals. So like sometimes I'll just go to like a music store and we'll just like play music and we'll talk about how music can help you as a coping skill. And you know, it's really funny because they're kids. They talk about everything that kind of I went through as a kid and some things I'm going through as an adult. So it's just hanging out. It's having fun and relating and just having a regular conversation. The only thing that's different is that I'm always thinking, what can I talk about? How can I connect this to coping skills? How can I connect this to recovery? But sometimes I even take youth to a movie and then we get to talk about, you know, in reflecting on the movie, what coping skills can we pull from the characters and how does this connect to your life and things like that. So it's kind of hanging out when I'm doing direct service. If I'm not doing direct service, it's a lot of meetings, but.
No, yeah, of course. Yeah. But it sounds like a lot of fun. And developing those personal relationships is really important. And music therapy has been really shown to work.
Yeah.
So what about you guys? Do you want to share a little bit about what the day in the life of a youth advocate is?
Well, at NorCal MHA, for us, it's We do have that direct contact with kids, but given the fact that we have minimal referrals, we're more county-based. We go to a lot of county meetings, so advocating for foster care and policies that have to do with foster care, sitting in executive board meetings that a lot of other youth peer mentors and youth advocates don't really have that much access to, and it's a pretty neat experience. So, yes. That's
good. That's really good. It's always nice.
I would agree with both of them and what they said. For me, at Stanford Youth Solutions, I'm also a supervisor, so I supervise all of our other youth peer mentors. So there's a lot of that. Then there's the direct service. I might get a clinician or a therapist come and tell me about a youth or a client and their need, if particularly if that client has a particular story that's relatable to mine or similar to mine. I might come in and speak with that young person. There's a lot of permanency attempts that we do, so helping youth try to transition down out of group homes. So I work a lot in wraparound and get to back home with family or into foster homes and things like that. A lot of advocacy, making sure the youth understand their rights, making sure that they understand everything that's going on and whatever services they're receiving, and making sure that they have everything that they need, and trying to help them along with looking towards a future path. Like, what are your goals with school? What are your life goals with education? What do you want to do when you grow up? How can we help you get there? Here are some tools. Here are some things that are out there for foster youth and youth that are in your circumstances, and really try to help them reach a level of success in their lives. So
that's great. That's really awesome. And I think that youth truly do benefit a lot by having other youth mentor them, And I think that developing those personal relationships are absolutely key to success, especially with a youth living with a mental health condition. My next question is, how has being a youth advocate been impactful to youth and their families? And I think you guys shed a little bit of light about that and how that can be really positive, but maybe you want to add a little bit to that, or maybe a personal thing of maybe how being a youth advocate has impacted your life and made you maybe deal with issues or struggles in your own life, or I don't know. How would you guys like to answer that question?
Well, being a youth advocate, most of our time is spent with youth, but sometimes we do get the privilege of working more closely with the family and the youth together. So impactful-wise, I've seen a lot of families be more reunified and much more structured after working with them, because we provide a much different understanding for the youth and the family, because we are in between. We're a little bit older, so the families see us give us more respect, and we also get the respect from the youth. So at times we serve as the mediator sometimes, which is very influential in the family structure in the end after finishing services.
So it has a really positive impact on the
Yes.
family as a whole, and especially the way in which the youth is able to communicate with maybe his or her parents, or maybe just parent, depending on the situation. So that's awesome, guys. Thank you for being on, and thank you for doing that. So my next question is, what is YAC? So what does YAC stand for?
So YAC is the Youth Advocate Committee of Sacramento County. So it's a collective of all of the youth peer mentors or youth advocates. It's an interchangeable title. Most of us prefer youth advocate, but it's a collective of all the youth advocates in the county. We come together, and kind of our goal is to provide technical assistance to the youth advocates in the county. We provide training and really just a safe place. It's a very unique role that we have. So, there's not many of us in our agencies that we can go to and kind of share similar experiences and give advice on the work that we're doing. So that's a big part of it. And then also it's acting as a youth voice for Sacramento County and different advocacy projects. And we come together and we choose initiatives that we want to focus on, and we will advocate for those things to happen. So.
So essentially, it's the youth advocates or youth peer mentors. You know, terms are often interchangeable, coming together to work collectively. You know, maybe through consensus to really represent the needs of all the youth.
Right.
And that's awesome. And what are your guys' roles on the youth advocacy committee?
So I'm the chair of
Okay.
the youth advocate committee.
I'm the co-chair.
Coach.
And I am the training and education coordinator.
So what do you guys maybe do in your roles? Do you guys maybe want to explain a little bit about what you guys do in your roles? Obviously the chair. Okay.
Right. So I run, you know, essentially the committee, oversee it, oversee the meetings, you know, final decisions that we come up with as a committee. You know, we do everything collectively, but I'm kind of the one who oversees, essentially. So
Almost like the facilitator, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You keep the meeting on track. You know, us youth, we sometimes get distracted. So keep us on track, keep us working. And what about you, Camille?
Yeah, I do anything Dante tells me to do. It's true, right?
Of course.
As everybody does
could
anything
you give me some
Dante.
coffee?
Yeah, well, I don't know where to get the coffee, but so as the co-chair, one, if Dante isn't available, I kind of step up into that role and then call Dante and say, is that okay that I did that? And yeah, and it just helped collectively. Like, I think the executive team as a whole, so some of it is Dante as the person who's kind of overseeing it, but the executive team as a whole really helps guide YAC as a committee.
Okay.
And I think as a person on the executive team, you have a responsibility to kind of speak up, make sure that other people's voices are being heard, make sure other ideas come into play, and kind of share the responsibility. So that's how I kind of see my role as co-chair.
And is that a key concept of that makes sure everybody's voices are heard and that everyone's insight does matter and it's all brought to the table?
Yeah, you know, I think as youth advocates, one thing that I think most of us value is, like, we want the youth voice to be heard, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're working all day trying to make sure that voices that are not being heard are heard, then I would hope that our meetings, they function the same way. We're making sure that everybody's voice has a place at the table.
Absolutely. I would agree, and I'm sure that's why you guys are all here, because you agree as well. So Amanda, what does the training and education coordinator do?
It's a position that is quarterly in a sense, because we get the ability and opportunity to do an educational tour every 3 months. So I organize the educational tours and find facilities or programs that are willing to give us a tour of their facility. Essentially, these educational tours are for not just to educate and train us, but also serve as a networking process ability.
So yeah, kind of like an opportunity to reach out, really network with other places?
Yes, we just went to the Boys and Girls Club in Midtown, and that was a neat experience because we were able to network with them, and NorCal and MHA will hopefully host their groups there in the future.
Awesome. So networking opportunities are really important, and obviously the more resources you have, the better able you are to assist the youth. So that's awesome.
Can I add just one point?
Absolutely, whatever you'd like.
So one thing I think is really important about the tours is because part of our role is referring youth to different places.
Oh, absolutely.
So the fact that we get to see it first before we refer is really helpful.
Well, it probably builds the relationship too, because, I mean, it's pretty hard to send a youth somewhere if you've never been there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've at least gone there, you've toured the place, you maybe know the name of a staff member that you've connected with, then maybe when you send a youth there, they're more inclined to enjoy their time there, maybe feel accepted, maybe actually want to be there. Because in the field of mental health, as you guys know, there's a lot of stigma, and especially with youth these days, so it can be kind of hard to seek services, especially when they've been referred, even if it's from a youth advocate or a youth peer mentor. So that's a very valid point. So I guess, how long have you guys all been part of YAC?
Since really I started as a youth advocate, which was about 4 years ago.
4 years. And what about yourself, Camille?
Yeah, so same here as since I started, which is, about 5.5 years ago.
Okay. And what about yourself, Amanda?
1 year.
1 year. Hey, but together, that's a little over 10 years, if I'm
Lots
doing my
of
math correctly.
experience.
So that's good. That's good. We're glad to see that YAC's executive team is relatively experienced, and at least I would say. And so, does YAC maybe have like a mission statement, or if there was?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, a lot of what we do is really to provide technical assistance to youth peer mentors, and that looks like training, looks like actually mentoring the youth peer mentor. So we actually have a position within our executive team, and that person is the YAC mentor. And what they do essentially is they come alongside new youth peer mentors or new youth advocates and provide them assistance in whatever they need getting started with the job. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a new youth advocate. It could be one who's fairly experienced, who's just needing assistance in a certain area. We will send our youth mentor out to talk to a new youth advocate about YAC and explain what we do and things like that. And then as I mentioned earlier, a lot of it is being the youth voice in Sacramento County. So we go to a ton of meetings where we're speaking up on behalf of the youth voice. We sit on a lot of committees, mental health, steering act committee, what else?
Well, Camila mentioned she was also on the Mental Health Oversight and Accountability Committee through Prop 63, so thank you, Camila, for that. It's nice to have some youth voice up there on the statewide level, so that's great. And then what is YAC currently working on? What are maybe some of the current projects YAC's got going on? Or?
Yeah, so some of the current projects we have going on are we're really trying to do a push to get youth voice in the criminal justice system or the juvenile justice system. We really want to see that particular population have a voice, and there's a ton of youth advocates that are in the mental health field, but we don't see too many who are directly working for probation or directly working with the sheriff's department or something like that to really provide that youth voice and be that expert on youth. So that's one of the big initiatives that we're working on. Another thing that we're working on and we're really excited about is a youth rights manual for Sac County, and we really want to help youth understand the rights that they have and know where to go if their rights are violated, who to speak to, who to talk to. So that includes multiple populations: mental health, foster care, juvenile justice system, and a whole host of other populations.
So did you want to explain on that? Because that sounds like a really great idea, and I think a lot of youth would really benefit from having a youth rights booklet. I mean, had I been a youth going through my mental health stuff, it would have been tremendous to have a booklet like that. So do you guys maybe want to explain a little bit on that booklet, or?
Well, so a lot of youth don't know what their rights are. I think a lot of people don't know what their rights are. So having a booklet where it's all in the same, everything's in the same place, and you can, like, if you're going through something, you're like, I'm not sure if this is what should be happening. You can go through and kind of read it and kind of know where to go if you want to look more into it and what resources to go after.
And it would be really user-friendly.
Yeah,
and
super user. Of course, it's like,
youth language.
Yeah, youth-friendly.
And so that way it's in a culturally competent manner. Yeah. So that way any youth, no matter where they are, obviously it'll probably be tailored for California. But that way youth in general can be like, hey, look, these are my rights. I can read it and not go, hey, Amanda, do you want to explain that to me? But they'll actually truly understand what they read and hopefully be able to use that to make sure that their rights aren't being violated. So, what makes YAC so important?
I think what makes YAC important is just the collective of life experience that we have. And I think it's crucial if we want to fix what I would call a broken system. There's a lot of needs in the foster care system. There's a lot of needs in the mental health system. And when you're not asking the direct consumer what the issues are, then how can you properly fix it? So I think that's one of the hugely important things that I would point out.
I would agree with that. But you want to add anything, Camila?
Yeah, something else that I think is important about YAC is in this work. A lot of times there's it's changing now, but when I first started, there's only a couple youth advocates at each agency. And it's still kind of like that, but we're getting more. And so it helps you not feel so isolated. And not just because you might feel isolated in your job, but also you might feel a little isolated in life. So we're all young. We're all like, most of us, even if you haven't directly had mental health services, you've gone through some challenges and you've overcome. And now we can be amongst peers who are all trying to do the same thing. So we're all trying to like get our life together. Like I'm always really proud when I hear about other committee members who are going to college and like what they're doing and what they're being involved in. So you have that peer support, and we're all around the same age. And sometimes you don't see that in other social settings. So I think that's really helpful.
I wouldn't doubt it. It sounds really, 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 really beneficial. Anything you'd like to add, Amanda?
For me, what makes YAC really special, in addition to the support, because that's the most essential part of YAC, because like Camila said, a lot of organizations only have one youth peer mentor, so they don't get that support from having another partner with them or being able to talk about it in daily with another youth peer mentor. So even having just one meeting, sometimes two when we have executive board meetings or subcommittee meetings, getting that support from one another is really cool. Also the opportunities that being in YAC provides, because given the diversity of our programs, sometimes other programs may have meetings that they know of that has to do with the population that others may work with, but we don't know about the meetings. So having the ability to jump on other people's opportunities and collaborate with each other.
And it sounds like you guys provide a lot of peer-to-peer support for each other as well. So almost like maybe if you were having maybe an issue with a client or something, and without breaking any HIPAA laws, of course, but you can almost say, hey, yeah, how could you guys help me in this situation? And is that kind of true? Is that?
Yeah, so we set aside time at the majority of our meetings to talk about different things that we have going on with clients, different advice, issues that may come up, and then we pass around different resources. So that can be within a meeting or it could be done by email. So there's a constant support.
That's good. That's really good. And I think Camille highlighted on something that a lot of people in the mental health community often face, and that's sometimes we feel alone or that we are by ourselves. And I think that knowing that we aren't alone and that we can reach out, and maybe if I'm, the one youth advocate over my organization, well then I can reach out to YAC and I can maybe receive some peer-to-peer support, or hey, how can I do this better? Or just by participating in these meetings and networking, it sounds like a really great opportunity for youth advocates out there. And so I'd like to follow that up with what are YAC's plans for the future? What do you guys see YAC growing into?
That is a great question. We definitely want to see more participation from youth advocates within the county. We want to take on bigger initiatives that are related to legislation in regards to foster care, mental health reform, juvenile justice system reform, things like that, and really have a big input in not just our county, not just our agencies, but across the state, across the United States. I think there's a lot of potential and there's a lot of expertise that we hold. It's just getting our name out there and letting people know that we have the experience that we do, and we can provide really good advice on different issues that youth are facing today. So
that's great. I mean, do you guys want to add to that? I know that was pretty eloquent there. Thank you, Mr. Don. Thank you.
He's chair for a reason.
Absolutely.
I've said it.
Absolutely. No, but I think that's a really great mission. Because right now it seems like that YAC is kind of a tree, and it's growing. It's growing. You guys are planting all your seeds, and I really have hopes that this will maybe grow into this big, beautiful oak tree one day, and I'm really excited. So that leads me to my next question: is why should more youth advocates join YAC, or youth peer mentors? Why should they? Or maybe you've already said why shouldn't they? Because after everything, all the great stuff YAC is doing, And so I guess, how would we reach out to these people? How would we get them to come on the YAC?
I think we're continually doing that. We're continually spreading the word out to the mental health consumer community. We're continually spreading the word to agencies and things like that. And I think it's highlighting the wonderful projects that we are doing. And I think if youth advocates knew about that, then they would want to get involved. And if they knew about the opportunities that they have to really represent youth voice on a bigger level than just, you know, the direct service that they're doing, not to take away from that at all. That's hugely important, but, you know, a lasting impact that could be, you know, in a law or something like that. So I think if they realize that, then, you know, they would want to come and join us. So.
Absolutely. I think so too. And then did you want to add anything to that? Or?
I don't know. I was just thinking, and we need them to come. We talked about all the things that we're doing now, and me and Dante, we've been here for a while. So, you know, I'm like, come on, because if we want to continue it beyond ourselves. Mm-hmm. So
Absolutely.
we want you to be a part of it, you know?
No, I agree. Well, at least it's starting with you two. That's a good sign, as well as you. Did you want to add anything as well, Amanda? Or?
I feel this last year that I've been there, we have grown a lot, because when I first started going to YAC, our wave of participation was somewhat low, and now sitting at our YAC meetings and looking at this, we have to keep on adding tables because more people and youth peer mentors are wanting to participate in YAC. So we're slowly getting to where we want to be, hopefully. In the next couple of years, I'll grow even more.
So continuing to make progress, continuing to build upon one step after another, until you're really able to gain success and be where you guys want to be. My question is, what about you makes being a youth advocate so appealing? You know, do you have well, maybe what about your own personal stories that, you know, what made you decide to want to be a youth advocate? Mm-hmm. You know, to help reduce the stigma and to help be a voice or a mentor to another youth in need. Because that's exactly what YAC does. They help each other, and then they're out in the community helping out other youth. So what made you guys decide to want to do that? Yeah.
For me, how I got to this position, it was luck. I was in class at ARC one day and participating in my psych class and talking about my experiences with suicide and depression and mental health. And a couple weeks later, Mental Health of America contacted me and wanted to interview me for a youth advocate position because one of the students was another youth peer mentor and they had a position open up. For me, being a youth advocate has been so empowering. I'm constantly growing as an individual and growing as a professional. What makes me appealing as a youth advocate is the empathy I have. I am able to relate to these youth because I've been there at one point and dealing with mental health. Knowing, you know, what it's like to be in a psych ward and the isolation you feel from having depression and suffering from mental health issues.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing. I know our audience will be able to relate, and I'm sure we all can as well. Mm-hmm. And so did you maybe want to touch on that subject a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I think... So it's been an amazing journey working as a youth advocate. My direct experience was the juvenile justice system when I was younger. I got into some trouble. I was involved in gangs and things like that and almost got killed. So after that, my big transformation came about when I joined the church and started to practice Christian faith. And after that, it was really me just wanting to connect with kids that I saw in similar circumstances as myself and wanting to tell them, like, look, you know, there's a better path. Here's what, you know, almost happened to me. let me try to help you out. So just kind of on Craigslist one day, I was looking for a job and came across Stanford Home for Children at the time, which is now Stanford Youth Solution, a youth peer mentor job. And I was reading the description and, saying that, you need a life experience that's similar to the youth that we're serving and this and that, and you're going to be mentoring them, you're going to be an advocate, and I just knew it was the perfect job for me. So I applied. 3 interviews later, I ended up getting a position, and it's been, I would say, a really life-transforming position. It's opened so many doors for me. I've gained so many skills, met so many people, and I think it really is going to help project me to, success in the future. So I think through the role also, I realized that, my desire is really to help foster youth in the juvenile justice system. And I think I realized the best way for me to do that is through becoming an attorney and representing youth in that capacity. So it's really helped me to, figure out what it is that I want to do. And there's so much that I can add, but I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think that's really beneficial, though, Dante. And I think your own personal lived experiences is truly going to help youth. I think they're going to be able to relate to you if they don't already. And I think that, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you as well, Amanda. So what about you, Camille?
Yeah. So I have to decide what part of the story to start with because it'll take way too long. But so I actually got this job because I was at a. So I had just moved to Sacramento. I didn't really know. I thought that I had $2,000 when I moved here, and I thought that $2,000 was going to I'll have a place to live. I'll get a job real quick, and and I didn't. It didn't occur to me that we were in the middle of the recession, and Sacramento was one of the places that were hit the hardest.
Very hard.
So I had gotten to the point where my money had pretty much ran out, and I really needed a job. And I was feeling really depressed and not knowing what I wanted to do. So one coping skill for me is I do what I love in those situations. I try to just get involved in things that I'm passionate about. One thing I'm passionate about is poetry. So I was sitting at home being super depressed, not knowing where I was going to live. And I'm I'm going to go to this open mic night and I'm going to speak some poetry. So that's what I did. And it happened that somebody who was sitting in the audience worked at Turning Point Community Programs and told me there was an opening. So, I gave her my information and I went to the job interview and I got a job during the interview. And that's kind of how it all worked out for me. That's how I got the job. But why I'm so passionate about youth is because I was a youth who felt like my voice wasn't heard. And I was a youth that sometimes wasn't listened to. It's not just that I felt like my voice wasn't heard. My voice at times was not heard. And because of some of that, I ended up homeless as a youth. And I was really passionate about people's voices being heard, especially in that environment, because when you're homeless, you hang out with all these other homeless youth who also feel like their voices aren't heard. And I wanted to help my friends, but I also wanted to help other youth who were in that circumstance, because sometimes just listening to somebody's story can change their life. And I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be that person to listen to somebody's story and kind of help them in that. So yeah, now I have this job and it is amazing. It has transformed my life. One, just having a stable job for the last 5 years. Wow.
Absolutely.
Coming from homelessness, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
But also it keeps me on track. It keeps my passion blazing, all this stuff, and it keeps me wanting to do more. I'm really interested in policy. I plan on going to grad school so I can be more involved in policy than I am now. So I can help youth in more ways and more lasting ways than I am now. So and I don't know if I would aspire to that if I did not have YAC and if I was not a youth advocate.
Well, we thank you. And I know that I speak for all the youth that you are serving, and we thank you for your services, each and every one of you. And as we get ready to wrap up here, I just have one question, and that would be, what kind of advice would you give to a youth out there who maybe feels that their voice isn't heard? You know, maybe they're going through a mental health challenge of their own, or maybe they just don't know where to go for help. You know, maybe they're being bullied. Maybe they're thinking of thoughts of suicide. Maybe they're having their first onset of depression or anxiety or whatever mental health condition that might be going on. What piece of advice would you maybe give to a youth in that situation?
Everything is temporary.
Okay.
So, especially being a youth, even the smallest things can be so big when you're in high school and junior high. And at times, you feel as if you're hopeless. However, being much older now and seeing how I thought when I was younger and seeing how my youth are thinking, you know, and being able to relate to them, a lot of times I tell them it's just temporary. There's going to be a time when you're going to look back and think that was so minimal compared to what the big picture was.
So just stay positive, try to
Yeah.
get past it, and keep fighting the good fight. What about you, Mr. Dante?
Yeah, I believe in something called resilience. I believe that you can do anything you set your mind to. We live in a land of so much opportunity. As I look back at my own life and think back, you know, even 4, 5, 6 years ago, if you would have told me that I would be doing the things that I would be doing today, I wouldn't have believed you. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't, think I had the skills to be where I'm at today. But with hard work and never giving up, I really believe that youth can do anything they want to do, and that's what one of my big goals is, to try to tell youth that and help them realize that you have potential and that you can do anything you set your mind to. I know that seems cliche, but it's so true. It's so true.
And it might be cliche, but you're absolutely right. It is true. And I know that when I was a youth, when I was going through everything I was going through, that is one thing I would have liked to have heard. Yeah. And so we appreciate everything you're doing with your youth, and the fact that you're telling them that is a sign. It's a good sign. Good sign. So what about you? Yeah.
So one thing I would tell them is to reach out, to if they need help, tell somebody, because there's lots of resources out here, and they can connect to somebody that can help them. The other thing is just believe in themselves. You know, like, believe in themselves. Don't give up. Keep on being the person that they want to be, and keep on going after that. It'll work out. Keep on fighting. It'll eventually work out. So
keep on fighting. That sounds like each and every one of you said. If there was one commonality, it's keep on fighting. And I think that's one thing in the mental health community is we always remember is you got to keep on fighting, because it's sometimes a long and hard fight, but we just got to keep on going. So I think that's going to wrap it up for us. So I want to thank Amanda Leon, Dante Williams, and Camila Baker for being here today.
thank you.
And I want to thank you all for watching and tuning in. And I want you to remember that your mental health does matter.
When I think of where I've been, the good times and the bad, on a scale of 1 to 10, either way I'm glad, 'cause I'm not alone. As I'm reaching for the phone, your voice is there, you really care, you're my comfort zone. Sometimes when I'm lost, crushed beneath the pain, though I can't afford the cost, I just smile and play the game. But there's a healing place where I cannot pretend. Your smiling face, your heart's embrace heals me again. So even when the storm is strong and I'm deaf to my own cry, I faintly hear a distant song, and I simply can't deny that I'm not alone. bet is that first step for hope. Trying to stand tall, I'm haunted by the past. With my back against that wall, one thing is clear at last. The kind of love you show to me flows from an endless stream, with shores so wide it won't subside. My mind had never dreamed how I'm not alone, even when I'm on my own. Your gentle touch is much too much to let me roam. So even when the storm is strong and I'm deaf to my own cry, I faintly hear a distant song and I simply can't deny how I'm not alone. 10,000 times I've known my best bet is that first step for hope. When I think of where I've been, the good times and the bad, on a scale